Welcome back to the Optional Boss Podcast, where we are going to take you down a trip of nostalgic lane. We are your hosts, Josh and Tyler. And Tyler, how are you doing today?
Well, I have to say, I'm feeling quite accomplished. Maybe not specifically today, but...
Did you have a nap?
I did have a nap, yes. It was wonderful. But no, I'm pleased to be able to say that I am free of the shackles of Elden Ring, which our listeners may know that I have been complaining about how big that game is. Good, very good, don't get me wrong, but I polished that off.
It's a good big game.
Yeah, I finished it off, I think I want to say last week, maybe, and I feel bad. It was kind of anticlimactic, because it was very much just one of those, I sat down for a quick little hour and a half gaming session that I can manage to get, and just did it. And it's over. I'm like, good. It's over now. I can finally play different games. So.
But did you beat Melania?
I sure did. That was actually the kind of deciding factor that I was ready to beat the game, because I had gotten to the last boss and I was a little bit walled, and that's usually the game saying, well, go do more things and then come back. So I went on my journey. I did more things, and because
you came back.
you haven't beaten Elden Ring unless you've beaten Melania. That seems to be the general census of the game. So
that's more or less it, yeah. Melania's not running around everywhere on you.
Well, it's the thing where she is a very important optional boss. So, but it's a really good fight, challenging, but it's a good time. And once I was finished with that, and it wasn't too bad. Like, I'd fought her before, and it just, so many tries. It was like, okay, I'm not ready for this. And when I finally did it, I want to say, I don't know, maybe 2-3 tries, and I took her down. So that was a solid fight. And then, I guess just at the point where how strong I had gotten, I went to do the final boss, and just took no time at all. Just absolutely ripped it to shreds. It was like, cool, That's it. The game's done. Throw it out.
All right, that's a wrap.
Yep.
Uninstall. Take the disc.
So
play Frisbee.
My final thoughts for people who would like to know, in a brief summary, that it is a great game. It is too much of a good thing, though, in my mind. I'm not going to say it doesn't respect your time, because it is very much a do as much as you want to do. But even still, just to get to the end of it, that's a time commitment. So.
It's hard to do unless you got a side game.
Well, and the tricky thing was I actually didn't really have one, because I wanted to devote so much time to it, right? Because so big that I just couldn't focus on anything else until it was done. And like I said, I think I might have mentioned before that I was like, I'm going to put it down, step away, and there's something about it was like, you can't. You must continue.
You've invested the time. You got to do this.
Yeah, but it's done, and I feel good about it. I really liked it. 10 out of 10. Wish it was shorter. But and since then, I've thought, what we need a nice, new, refreshing experience. What could we dive into? We could finally tackle that challenge that's been looming me over for the year, and I could start a Mori, a nice RPG. Maybe I'll break something up with haven't gotten around to Blasphemous 2 yet, a nice Metroidvania. No, hopped into another Souls-like.
Yep.
just immediately, I started playing the highly anticipated Lies of P, and oh my god, this game is fantastic.
It's Pinocchio.
It is Pinocchio, yeah, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details right now. The game did just come out, and I would rather encourage our listeners to go check it out as opposed to just hear it all from me. But I mean, if you know Pinocchio, then it's pretty good. It's got a lot of details to it. But yeah, it's just, if you know the story of Pinocchio, it's got a lot of really interesting nods while doing its own thing. And, it might not be made by FromSoft, but this feels like a proper Souls game. And, the freedom of exploration in Elden Ring is all fine and dandy. I'm liking that this one's the more closed off, guided, linear. Not...
Yep.
I will say, compared to your Bloodborns and your Dark Souls, so far at least, it has felt incredibly restrictive, but that said, I mean, the level design is incredible, but it also has a much more in-your-face plot to follow than those games do. So I feel like it can kind of get away with the much more strict linear approach, as opposed to you could go to area A, B, or C. It is no, you go to area B, A, B, then C. So some people might think it's a detriment. I actually really like how the game's been flowing, but that's a bit of a brief insight as to what I've been up to. How about yourself? How you been doing?
I'm going to say I've been doing better because I actually upheld my section of the challenge, and I played through and beat Final Fantasy III.
Congratulations! I am late.
It was
to the party.
Pixel remastered.
That's all right.
It was the Pixel remastered.
So I'm excited to dive into the Pixel remaster of 3 one day. Who knows? Because I do want to play them through backwards, and I did start 5, and I was enjoying it, but I was also just not. Haven't beat it, but I've done it enough that I wasn't just ready to sit down and sleep. Too many games this year. Good God, we are going to have one heck of a game of the year thing when we do get to that point of the year, which is coming up soon.
The Bossies.
The second annual.
An annual thing happening the second time. Yeah, and then we also got our game award discussions from the Kegels.
Talking about Kegels.
Which I'm kind of excited for because I don't know much of what's actually on its way out.
Well, it's hard to say, right? We got some interesting things. It looks like the Switch is pretty much on its last legs. Mario Wonder just came out, and that I've heard
Mario
good things.
RPG remake.
Oh, that's
around the corner. I'm so stoked.
And I know we're diverting a little bit from the mention of Final Fantasy III, but doesn't it feel a little bit like it's a weird comparison to make? But when you look at something like the 3DS, when it was kind of starting to become the more irrelevant console, they started doing less releases, but they do a few big releases, and then they would also do some really interesting remakes at the tail end of its life, right?
Yeah.
So you would get stuff like there was Kirby Planet Robobot, like an original IP from Nintendo, and one of the later ones for the 3DS. And then you also got stuff like Samus Returns, which is like a full-blown remake.
Yep.
We got Wonder coming out, and we've got Super Mario RPG, Thousand Year Door. So it feels like neat. They're getting into that. We're not putting in the effort of putting into a lot new. We will still do some new things, but we will still throw you a bone with some quality re-releases in some way.
Eventually, you'll get Metroid Prime 4.
I'm not a Prime fan, so not a Prime fan yet. Anyway, I still have. Prime is in the dreaded backlog for me. Which, folks, listen to the episode. Boost it up.
So one thing I will say is I'm much more a fan of the 2D games for Metroid, but at the same time I can appreciate the Prime games.
I want to know
hoping
why.
that we get a 2 and 3 remasters.
I would be very frustrated if whatever Nintendo's follow-up console, it's like if Prime 4 has to come out on the follow-up console, whatever. I'm not going to be too bent out of shape. But if Prime 2 and 3 remake also come out on the follow-up console,
wouldn't that be bizarre if Prime 4 was the launch title?
Honestly,
of the
that
next
would be
console instead of a Zelda or a Mario, because they just had another Zelda.
That would be a pretty strong launch, I think, because Metroid it's still not your hottest seller, but I feel like the amount of buzz that's been around Prime 4 and how well Dread did, that as a launch title, I think Prime 4 could actually knock it out of the park.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder.
I finished Final Fantasy 3.
I'm glad. It's one of my favorites, but it's also one that I can. It's an NES Final Fantasy through and through.
Right.
So you're not gonna get the most grand epic story, or it's mostly just there's 4 guys on the right and some enemies on the left. Kill them.
Yeah, pretty much.
But the music is fantastic.
Oh, music is hands down always a fantastic time with Final Fantasy games, and if you need proof of that, just look at Theater Rhythm.
I want to go back to that.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Mind you, I enjoyed 2 and I enjoyed 1 as well.
I was going to say,
playing through the Pixel remasters.
Now that you've done the initial NES trilogy, how would they sit for you? I'm going to guess that number 1, it will be number 1 because you have a lot of nostalgia for it, and it's kind of got like a bit of a beauty to its simplicity.
But that's where you're wrong.
Oh, no, I'm wrong.
Out of the trilogy, I would say 3, 1, 2.
Ah, that's a good way to put it. I would probably rank it the same way, just because, sorry, 2, there are things to like about you, just not enough.
Yeah, 2 with the individual leveling system is kind of... You know, it's a bad way of doing it.
Sad trumpet is sad. It feels like Final Fantasy 2 feels like it should have been like I haven't played them, but like a Saga game or something. Like it doesn't feel right alongside its Final Fantasy brethren. Mind you,
it does, aside from the weird leveling mechanic.
that Bloodline's producing some real different looking kids these days. Yeah, you look nothing like your older brother.
Yeah, now I have finished that. You still have to start up Amori.
I do, and I have...
And you gotta stop procrastinating on it, and you gotta upload your section.
Yeah, no,
I want to see it done before... I want to see it done before the first episode of December.
See, that is actually where I have it scheduled, so hopefully I will be able to live up that end. I'm pretty sure, like, Lies of P seems to be going very smoothly for me, and it won't be nearly the endeavor Elden Ring is, and yeah, Amori is very much it's top of the queue, and I can't take it off of the playlist. It has to be done.
Yeah.
And I am looking forward to it, because I've actually been strongly craving a good turn-based RPG. So I'm looking forward to.
I will thoroughly say, like, the RPG mechanics not the most in depth. It's very rock paper scissory.
I've played Robopon 2. I don't give a damn. It's an RPG. I'll like it.
Yeah. If you're looking for an in depth RPG, Amori is not going to be it. But it's the experience that you're doing, kind of like you would do with Mother 3.
See, Mother 3 was very worth my time. So, and I know you have very, very highly praised this game, so...
Oh, absolutely. Like, I plan... Well, I'm assuming, depending on how your reception of it is, that we'll end up doing an episode.
Yep, most likely.
But, so, aside from Final Fantasy 3, I did finish up Blasphemous 2. I don't remember if I had that done by last time we recorded. I don't think I did.
I think you might have been just jumping into it, yeah.
Yeah, so that is finished up. It was good. I'm indecisive if I like 1 or 2 better.
I'm gonna have to... That's on the list, preferably before the end of this year. I'd like to think it's going to be Lies of P, Amori, Blasphemous 2. Maybe I'll sneak in a Mega Man game in there. I don't know. But I've heard a lot of good things about Blasphemous 2, but Blasphemous 1 was something real special, so...
It was. I think a big part of Blasphemous 2 is there were some major glitches, or things that turned out to be glitches, such as getting stun locked in a corner, like nonstop. Your health would just drain.
I did see that was a bit of an issue.
But that's a lot of those things, like a lot of my hiccups that I wasn't caring for turned out to be changed, rebalanced, and fixed just before I finished up the game. So I'd have to wait for another playthrough to be able to come up with which one I preferred better.
Yeah. No,
it's a longer game.
To it. I thought it would have a little bit more meat on its bones than the first Blasphemous, because I'd say, I don't know, first go around for most people for Blasphemous, maybe a 10-hour game, but once you've done it, 4 or 5, something like that. Mm-hmm. So, it's not the biggest use of your time. It's where I could see Blasphemous 2 being in the 15-20 hour mark.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, but
again, I don't know how much I finished because my time was all kinds of fucky.
That's right.
Like, by the time I finished up the game, it was in the negatives, like negative 56, and it's like, wait, what?
It's funny now that you mentioned that. I think you did have it beat by the last time we spoke.
I think I did. Now that I'm bringing that up, I think we discussed about that.
Come on, people, we remember what our episodes are about.
That was 2 weeks ago.
What? A game show, yes.
you have to realize that we have to have a full-on discussion about which number this is because I messed it up so many times.
I forget what the episode is after we're done recording it.
Yeah. 27.
Yeah. Thank
so
you
now I'm on to
listeners.
Liza P.
If you rewind about like 5 minutes to what I was saying about Liza P. Actually, no, I'm sure you have some pretty different thoughts on this than I do because I am just in love with this game.
I'm enjoying it. I'm finding myself get more frustrated with it than I normally would a Souls game.
Wow.
But I don't know. I just can't get so. I'll say this: there's humanoid and puppets that you can fight. When it comes to the puppets, I cannot get the timing down. Worth a damn.
They're weird, jittery kind of.
I cannot. Humanoids, no problem. I can do them with my eyes closed.
They're a lot easier to stab in the spine too.
Where I am now, it's a lot more humanoid, non-puppet kind of enemies. So it's I'm finding it a lot easier.
Oh, that's something I meant to ask. So, what do you think about like the theme of it all? Because it's very clear that like. They took a lot of inspiration from Bloodborne, clearly. Yep. But at the same time, it's very much its own entity.
Absolutely.
What do you think about how it's doing what it's doing?
I like it. I'm not big on steampunk stuff.
Oh, see, that's where you and I differ because, like...
Yeah.
Oh, I just love steampunk. Like, the best way I could describe this to someone if they were wondering what it's like if Bloodborne and BioShock had a baby. With a public domain story.
With a public domain story, and it plays like a crossover between Bloodborne and Sekiro.
Bloodborne, Sekiro, you got a little bit of like just standard Dark Souls in it. And you know what's also something that I found that the game does that I'm not sure if I like or not yet, but it does kind of tie into the linearity. Now, this game, unlike your standard Souls affairs, doesn't have armor sets. It just has costumes for cosmetics and then parts, right? But I find that the parts aren't really too various. In fact, it seems like it trickles them out as just standard progression.
Yeah, kind of.
It's not. I haven't
Instead of kind of choosing your play style. It's like here you go. Here's your armor upgrade.
It's not like in your standard Souls game where you gotta like mix and match or stuff, or you're finding like a set that suits your like play style. I know it has it to a degree, but it's not nearly as in depth.
No.
But big sword for big kills.
Big wins.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's... I'm enjoying it, but I'm finding myself get frustrated at it. Tyler, I know I've sent you a couple messages after, like, a really stupid part I had a hard time with.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck this
thing. That's where I'm just like I'm just strolling through and having a fine time.
I don't get game rage too often. But this is kind of like flaring it up, like
really?
Little solar flares in me. Yeah.
Wow.
It's weird, and it's a lot of it comes down to the timing of the puppets.
Huh. That is so bizarre.
Yes.
Well, we'll see if it improves as it goes, right? It might just be not your thing, right?
Well, I'm enjoying it and I can appreciate it. I'll say that.
It's not like you're playing something out of sheer spite, like I intend to one day with Roadrunner's Death Valley Rally. That's gonna make me rage something fierce. Oh, that'll be a fun one to talk about.
Yeah, that's good. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah. But
that's what I've been up to. Blasphemous 2, Final Fantasy 3, and now Liza P. And before we go into the topic at hand, we do have a write-in from Mike.
Good old Mike.
He didn't give me a name to actually go by, so I'm just going to call him Mike.
He'll know.
Because this is someone that we know.
Yep.
He wants to know, has there been an item that you wanted for your collection, but decided to pass only to regret it afterwards?
I was just telling you about this, but I ended up getting it in my collection later.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, I am going to, but... Yeah, I did get my copy of Moon, and that's another one that's on the pile that, with the backlog, she grows. So, this one's kind of hard to say that I feel like I missed out. It's more of a hindsight situation, but it is a hindsight situation that hits me pretty hard. Our listeners may know that I am quite fond of the Game Boy and its family of systems and games, and anyone who knows Game Boy stuff well knows that pretty much your holy grail Game Boy Color game is Shantae, right? Just absurdly expensive and unfortunate because it's a very high quality Game Boy Advance. Like, that thing pushes the hardware to its limits, but it came out really late, to the point the Game Boy Advance has already been out for a year, and so it wasn't. They didn't produce a lot of copies, and also it barely even got published to begin with. And I very vividly remember seeing copies of this game on for clearance at Zellers or something, and just not even batting an eye. And now
you had no idea.
Well, see,
right?
that's kind of one of those things where I can't really say. It's more of a
which is a bit of a regret.
It is, but it's almost the go back in time and buy Apple stocks dilemma as well, right? Although, mind you, it's not one of those I'm kicking myself because it's not in my collection because it's valuable. It's just it sucks because it's a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As for another one that I would say I have a little bit of non-buyer's remorse, I guess you'd say, in one that I actually experienced, is I passed on. It wasn't in the best shape, and I mean, I'm a collector, but I'm not the most hardcore collector. But it was a complete in-box copy of Secret of Mana for Super Nintendo. And
oh, yes.
This is before I found out I liked it as much as it did, but I still, it was one of those things where, I would not be opposed to
the Mana series.
Yeah, so I'd be fine with having that. And I'm $100, though. I don't really want to. And, yeah, I'd say that was probably at least a recent memory. One of the things that I passed on that I have kind of regretted. How about yourself?
So, okay. I'm sure I've told you this story before personally, but if there's going to be one in hindsight, because admittedly I'll go out and buy things that I want, and it's not too often I'll shy away from. I'm more than happy to wait and hope that it comes down.
Yep.
But one that I remember seeing as a kid and never asked for, if you will, because Super Nintendo. Earthbound. And the whole reason I wanted Earthbound was because where's this Ness character from Super Smash Brothers? Who is this? And then find out it's Earthbound. And same thing with Super Metroid. But Earthbound, I remember seeing it on the shelf when Super Smash Bros. Was around. It was just it's on its way out. If I had that still today, or if I had the opportunity, I would definitely get it, because that cart loose anywhere around the 600 mark Canadian.
So it's
I haven't looked at recent prices because there's no point, because I'll never own it.
A couple of years ago, I'm going to say pre-COVID, I'm pretty sure I told you about this as well. I was out retro game hunting with a buddy back when that was a feasible hobby. Jeez.
Yeah.
Call back to our last episode and how ridiculous it is for a copy of Blue Dragon these days. God.
Yep.
So, but they had a complete in box and semi-sealed big box copy of Earthbound. And when I say semi-sealed, it was there's a little bit of a flap tear in the cellophane, right? It just might have got a little bit of a ding somewhere, but it was still in really good condition. And condition aside, there's a complete copy of Earthbound. It's got the manual in there and everything. And they wanted $900.
That's pretty cheap for what it started going around.
And I think at the time it was worth $1,100, but they were it's got a tear in the cellophane, right? We'll take off a good chunk of money. And it was I'm not going to drop $900. I'm pretty sure that one alone would probably go for $3,000 these days, easily.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've seen them go for about $2,400. So
yeah.
That's not sealed. That's just complete in box.
All the stuff, scratch and sniff, maybe. Or was that no, that wasn't in the manual. That was in the Nintendo Power.
That was the Nintendo Power.
Yeah.
I think it did have scratch and sniff stickers though in the player's guide.
It smells like vomit.
Yeah, the marketing for that game was not good.
Yep.
I mean, one of the enemies is a giant pile of puke, but
yeah, but
aside from that, that's the only real part that's kind of quote unquote gross.
Well, and not even that. It's the thing where, it's not like that thing is in any way integral to the plot. It's just one of the kooky enemies that happen to be in Earthbound. It's not like,
No, it's integral to the plot. Well, I mean, kind of.
That would be like, now mind you, this is integral to the plot. It would be like having the cum monster in Pac-Man 2 on there. And yes, I said what I said for a reason.
Well, Master Belch was his name, and he is the one that was kidnapping the Mr. Saturns.
Oh!
So you couldn't get the help from Mr. Saturn because Mr. Belch, who was this giant pile of puke, was kidnapping and enslaving them.
Oh, I need to get past the first melody in that game one day. Maybe that'll be the challenge that you issue me for next year. Though I have my seeking suspicion, I know what you are challenging me to next year. So we will get there.
There could be so many things.
So many things. I know what I'm challenging you to next year. No, that's not fun. It has to be at least to some degree fun. This can't be a masochism challenge. It might end up becoming a masochism challenge. We'll see how the years treat us.
It's bizarre, and we are a little off topic now, but Mother 1, I kind of look back fondly on, just for the sheer fact, it's like, I'm glad I've played it. I played it twice. I played the Authentic and the 25th Anniversary Edition, and I'm glad I played it as annoying as it is.
So my Mother 1 to say would be Mega Man and Bass.
Yeah.
It's a frustrating fucking game, but I'm happy to say it's another Mega Man game that I've played. So I understand that weird kind of fondness for something that if this is going to be a real hard shot, though, I'm going to say Mega Man and Bass is a better game than Mother 1.
Yeah, that's a little questionable.
Okay, it aged a little better.
You know what? I'm kind of curious on what some other people's are. So on the Instagram or Twitter post for this episode, drop us a comment. What's your game that is terrible but you love regardless?
Ooh, I like it. And also, thank you very much, Mike, for your comment
thanks, Mike.
today. we will, if we see you, we will ask you the same question you asked us.
Another hindsight thing that I guess I'll add in is because I never got into the series till I was an adult, but the Resi Evils and Silent Hills.
Yeah, they're not like Earthbound expensive, but they're not cheap.
No, and I refuse to spend more than $70 on a retro game, if you will.
It depends on what for me, honestly. I have my cap.
It would really have to be tickling my pickle to do it.
Ew. If I find a loose copy of Robopon for the Game Boy, even though it's not a good game, I'd spend up to like $80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
But
I mean, there's still tax.
But, speaking of expensive games, though,
Earthbound is expensive.
It's a segue.
That's a bad segue because not a lot of these games are that expensive. But
what are you talking about?
Topic,
one of them is over $1 million.
Okay. Depends if you get it graded or not.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Today's topic, we are talking about the launch year of the Nintendo 64. Why? Because, well, we were having a hard time coming up with a topic on a bit of a short notice.
That's the 30-minute intro.
This is the 30-minute intro.
Yeah.
And some of these, admittedly, we're going to kind of whistle on by because we don't have much to say on them. So I'm going to go ahead and cue up some music and we shall get it right into it. So the N64 came out North America around, it was September 29th, 1996, I think.
I believe that is the launch.
There's some launch titles, and admittedly, we're going to do the launch year. With it coming out September in 96, there's not many titles, so we are actually going to go to December of 97.
Yeah, because...
Which kind of sucks because it's leaving some good chunk of quality titles off this list that I'd love to talk about. Maybe one day.
This is the interesting thing about the N64, right? Because, I mean, there is that horrible curse that Nintendo seems to have, is like every third console seems to be a bit of a flop. And, I mean, of its time, the PlayStation, even I'll admit, it's like just the juggernaut of that particular era in gaming. So the N64 had,
especially when it came to sports.
Oh, I got a feeling we're going to be talking about a good chunk of sports today.
Yeah,
but its launch was kind of weak, and now this is the tricky thing. So if we did just the launch titles like we have prior, I guess we've kind of expanded on that, but all the same.
We did the SNES launch year.
Yeah, but this console launched with a grand total of 2 games. If you bought yourself a brand new N64 on the launch, you would have your choice of 2 things. And admittedly, one is worth it. One's worth buying this console, especially as a kid. Like, I don't know about you, but if I had Super Mario 64, you could probably get months out of that game.
So I remember when we got our N64, the previous consoles that we got came with a game. It had a pack-in title where the N64 didn't.
No, which is kind of sad. It's also the start of that trend of things just gradually being taken away until the point where you're buying a 3DS and Nintendo's like, you already got a charger, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And the N64 sat there for about a month, not doing anything. And
then you just didn't have a game
Super
for
Mario
it.
64. Yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
It's like, well, we already spent this much, so we aren't spending any more. I get it.
Wasn't cheap. I can't remember what it launched at, but it was like, what, $250?
I'm not even sure. Something like that, yeah.
Expensive.
But yeah, we got Super Mario 64 for our first game, and I mean, who doesn't know about Super Mario 64? It's the inventor of the 3D platformer.
Well,
Bubsy could have learned.
You can point to other things as like, there were 3D platformers before per se, but this was where it was like, this was actually a thing that was possible and good, right? Yeah. You're looking at things like for the PC that were just like jumping polygons and stuff. This was a true
those weren't
3D
platformers. They were garbage.
Yeah.
This is the first proper platformer.
And to this day, people think it is one of the most fun things to play. One of Mario's absolute best outings. And
you know what Mario's best outing is? Best Mario 3D Mario game is? Banjo fucking Kazooie.
I will admit that I think that's a better one. I actually think, and I don't think it's going to be on this list. If it is, fantastic. But my favorite Super Mario 64 is actually Toy Story 2.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if you've played it or if you have a way to play it, but Toy Story 2 is basically, it follows that same kind of structure, because there were a lot of games that were just doing Super Mario 64 over again. But it did it really well. And the one thing it did that Mario didn't figure out until Odyssey was if you get your quote-unquote star, I think in Toy Story 2 it was like Pizza Planet tokens, you have the choice of dipping out of the level or still staying and exploring and possibly finding another quote-unquote star. So
that was probably the worst part about Super Mario 64.
And I get why it booted you out. It kind of reset it because certain objectives would only show up for certain things.
Or different things will show up in the level.
Yeah, but it was still just so cool to just, I'm going to keep going. But that was one of your 2 choices for the other one.
The other one was Pilot Wings 64.
Which I haven't played it. It is on the Switch Online, so I kind of want to check it out at some point, because I've heard Pilot Wings is good.
I know that it certainly has its fan base. It's nothing groundbreaking like Super Mario 64, but it's still known as a decent quality game and a good time.
I just like how Pilot Wings is just like, for a good while, the launch guy for a lot of Nintendo games, right? Because you got Pilot Wings on the Super Nintendo, Pilot Wings 64 here. I think
they just come in and drop Mario off.
Yeah, I want to say like the Wii U had a Pilot Wings game. I don't know. There are more than just those 2. But it was still kind of cool that, like, yeah, it's a tech demo game, but it's still got that Nintendo magic. So It's what
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not picking that over Mario 64 though.
And you know what? Yeah, I'd rather Super Mario 64. But what's absolutely bizarre to me, so that was not even October. That was on launch, so September 29th.
Is it? It's the 2 games.
North America didn't get a new game for the N64 until November 1st.
Yep.
That was Wave Race 64.
Yeah. There was one other launch title in Japan, and we're not missing out on much because it was. I'm not even going to say the whole name, but if anyone knows what shogi is, which I don't know exactly, it just seems very similar to chess, and that was the other thing available at launch. Wave Race 64 though.
I played this a lot. I still have it on my shelf actually.
I've never played it, but I know people love it.
I absolutely loved playing this and just playing all the different combos that you could do, and you can unlock a dolphin.
Oh, cool!
So just with so many points, and I forget exactly. I don't remember if it was like a cheat code that you had to do, because back in the day that we had cheat codes for these games.
Back in my day.
Or if it was just like it was a prize for unlocking a bunch of stuff and doing a bunch of time trials and stuff.
It was
I remember I put a lot of hours into this game.
It's really arcadey, right? Well, that
kind of it's water Mario Kart 64.
I just thought of something too. I don't know about Pilot Wings 64, but the fact that the N64, the identity of this console being like those 4 controller ports in the front, didn't have 4-player games at its launch.
No, just
I don't think so. Anyway, maybe Pilot Wings might have 2-player. I don't know, but Wave Race, I think, would have been the first. Wave Race was
definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
And it came out over a month after.
And the only this is about 10 days later, but we got the Mortal Kombat trilogy. This I've heard is really bad. Like really bad. Like these are some of the absolute worst ports of Mortal Kombat, and also, so I don't know if you've ever played a fighting game on the N64. That controller is not for fighting games.
Okay, so let's take a minute out before we continue. What do you think of the design for the controller?
I think it's an anomaly because it's really dumb, but at the same time, when it's doing what it's supposed to do, it is incredibly comfortable.
Fair.
You know, when you are holding it left hand in the middle for the joystick and then the right hand on the side, like somehow there's a very comfortable controller. That D-pad is trash. Everyone's N64 D-pad is dry and crusty and goes ka-thunk whenever you push something on it.
Yep.
And
pretty much.
And the Z trigger, incredible placement and utility. It took a while for them to figure it out. The C buttons.
C buttons was a different story. It's
they served a purpose, and that purpose would later be refined into a second stick. Which
wasn't even a good stick.
Well, and you know what the weird thing about that is? Well, we're talking about the one on the 3DS. Yeah, the C stick is trash. But it's amazing how long dual analog was around and how long it took for people to consider using one of those sticks for camera movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was partway through PS2's era.
I think that's kind of where it started to get adopted, yeah. Otherwise, it was mostly like
it was always
shoulder
the
buttons.
L and R buttons. Or the C buttons.
Yeah. No, I don't hate the N64 controller. It's the only thing it's good for, though, is N64 games. As where, the Super Nintendo controller, which I say all the time is my absolute favorite, does actually carry over to games beyond that console, right? You can play NES games with it. You can play Sega games with it. You can play modern games with it to some extent. Like, it is just... The N64, what are you doing with it? These.
N64 games.
Yeah.
And you know what's bizarre is playing 64 games nowadays, it's almost better to have that controller.
Oh, but that's the problem. Is like you can't really use other controllers for N64 games. It's just... And same with GameCube. And I know the GameCube controller is one of the... But it has the same problem where it's like... It was designed too well, if that makes sense.
The analog triggers.
Oh, yeah, that too.
So yeah, Mortal Kombat trilogy. Probably the worst in the
trilogy. The worst as the trilogy. Yeah, it was just a hastily slopped together port of, I think, the Super Nintendo versions, maybe the arcade versions. I'm not up on Mortal Kombat enough to know. So, and then
fair.
And then that's
the next game, which came out the same day, I know actually drove people to say, fuck the N64 for sports games.
Wait, really?
And yeah, this was not well received.
Wayne, no.
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey.
Oh.
It put a lot of sour taste in people's mouth.
Oh, whoa. Okay, that's okay, because the next game is actually one of the best games of the console, so kind of makes up for it.
But it's not a sports game.
No, it's not a sports game. What more can we say about Wayne Gretzky's hockey other than hockey man and hockey game? Yeah.
You're better off playing sports on PS1.
Sports
in this era.
Next would be Killer Instinct Gold, though, and that
So I've never played a Killer Instinct game before, and I think I mentioned this during the SNES launch here. They're just fighting games, aren't they?
Well, they are, but there's something about them that just makes them just that, they got that rare polish. So they're good fighting games is how I would put it. To each his own. But I would say, like, if you were going to go back and play just a random Super Nintendo fighting game and you haven't played Killer Instinct, give it a shot. It's a fun time.
Okay.
But this is just...
Fair enough.
I don't know if Killer Instinct Gold... I don't think it's Killer Instinct 2, because there was one in the arcade. I think it's its own thing. But it is considered a really good one. The only problem with it is that it's on the N64. And it's just that, it's not even that it was bad, like it played well and stuff, but it's just not the console for fighting games, so...
Fair.
But I have played Killer Instinct Gold a little bit when I was younger, and it was just like, oh, cool, a sequel to Killer Instinct, I'm in, and I thought it was a blast.
That's fair.
Yep.
Then there's December 3rd, so only the 4 games in November.
Cool.
Cruisin' USA. December 3rd, 1996. And so I've played it maybe once or twice on the N64, but there was always an arcade cabinet of this.
Yeah.
At the back of one of the restaurants we used to go to all the time. And used to hop on that all the time, and as long as you came first in the race, you got a free race.
Oh, cool.
So I used to play the same map and just win constantly. And I just played, and my parents couldn't get me off it, and they were so mad at me. It was great.
Sorry, Mom. I'm too busy being good at video games. God.
Yep. I'm doing the thing, and I'm winning all.
So I've actually played a fair bit of Cruisin' USA, and the cool thing about it, like, it's super arcadey, as you mentioned, as you were playing it in an arcade.
In an arcade. So in a restaurant on an arcade.
The fastest car you can unlock in this game it's just... I think it's Blinky. I don't know, the red Pac-Man ghost.
Really?
Yeah, you can unlock, like, that's the super secret cheat unlock car, is just the red Pac-Man ghost, and it just goes stupid fast.
Oh, that's amazing.
Now, Cruisin's fun. Like, it's a solid racing game. Like, I would say I like Mario Kart 64 more, but it's also a different beast of a racing game. It goes for kind of like that little bit more realistic.
It's not a kart racer, it's a racer.
Yeah, but it's...
There's a huge difference between them.
It's not so realistic that it's going to take itself painfully seriously, i.e. Pac-Man Ghost. It's just solid arcade racer. Cruisin' USA is solid. The only thing that sucks about it is between that and Mario 64, and I guess Wave Race as well, and those kids don't have much ass to ask for Christmas this year.
No, because the only other game that came out, which was actually the same day as Cruisin' USA, was Star Wars Shadows of the Empire.
Okay, but this game's actually kind of dope.
I haven't played this, so I was hoping that you did.
Third-person action game.
As kind of expected by Star Wars.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sure I have played it, but I couldn't tell you anything about it.
So I'm not going to say that it aged particularly well, but I do know that I remember like a couple people who had this, and I played a fair bit of it. Didn't get super far because, kids, and it was a surprisingly difficult game for what it was. I mean, 3D action platformers, like, this is new grounds. It would have played a lot like a PC game, and I'm pretty sure this game did come out on PC. LucasArts had a pretty big PC presence back in the day.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's an interesting, just kind of like side story Star Wars game. It has a couple different game modes. Like, you're mostly just 3D with your tank controls, and you got your blasters and stuff. It think something like Tomb Raider, but probably a good bit jankier.
Jankier than Tomb Raider, like PS1 Tomb Raider?
Yeah.
That's pretty tanky.
It's quite tanky, yes. But I do believe there was also some, like, flight missions and stuff like that. I don't know. I think this is a decent game, especially if you're a Star Wars fan.
So, since we're kind of going back and forth on them, we should also start mentioning, would you play it now?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, to the suggestion and Star Wars.
Okay, I'd give it a shot.
I'd sit down with it.
I'm always down to try new things.
Get to the end? I don't know, but I would at least give it a fair shot.
I give it a shot.
Yeah, that's it for the year. That's the launch year for this.
That was it.
This console. That sucks.
That does.
That
does. That's a 3-month span. Let's say
it's not that they're bad games. There's a couple bad games in here, but it's just like...
That's actually that's more like 2 months, because end of September to the beginning of December.
Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. That's all you have to ask for Christmas. Well, you're not going to ask for them all.
One of them is the gold standard.
That would be... You'd be a real spoiled kid. Yeah, Killer Instinct Gold. It's got gold in the name.
Okay, 2. Super Mario 64.
No, that...
turd.
Yeah, if you didn't get Super Mario 64 on launch, well,
you just got the N64.
You just got the N64. Yeah, I am sorry to hear that. So I don't know. It's a little grim, but we've got 1997 coming around. It was the debut of probably some bizarre soda that is discontinued now that someone's nostalgic for. And we can sit down with a nice cold glass of that and play some NBA Hang Time. I don't care.
No, it's not play it now.
Basketball.
So that's going to be based on our biases. We don't care for sports games. The odd golf game, I'm down for.
I do enjoy a nice golf game, but that's it.
But can we talk about how bizarre that is? December 3rd up until January 17th.
And that was the only January game.
Yes. Yeah. Because the next one is almost a month later, February 10th. And this one is a big one. This one is a fair big one. It's Mario Kart 64.
Oh.
And
I still like playing this game.
Yeah, it's a good time. I hate saying everybody knows Mario Kart 64. It was just the N64 was the sleepover console. You got your friends over, you played multiplayer games, and that is what I found the N64 did extremely well in comparison to other consoles at the time. So Mario Kart 64, we used to always get my buddy down. Me, my brother, and my other buddy used to just play this nonstop from races, mostly the battle modes.
Battle mode was a good time.
But then I'm sure I've mentioned on one of the other episodes, family members come over from England and we just play Mario Kart 64. I have a lot of nostalgia for Mario Kart 64. It's just so good.
Yeah, I've got...
How many times can I say Mario Kart 64?
Good buddy of mine, we, any chance we chill, we usually get a good couple races in for Mario Kart 64. And you know what? You can say it's nostalgia. I would happily accept that. But this is probably my favorite Mario Kart. Just, I played 8 Deluxe. I played a bunch of them, actually. And this is just the one that I genuinely enjoy going back to the most. So 100% will still play.
And that could just be nostalgia, but I mean, at the same time, it's just genuinely fun.
The next one I wanted to play one day. This game has always intrigued me. I think this is on our Rare episode too.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, should I say what it's Blast Core? Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and so this came out in February 28th, so, you got at least another game in February, but I'm sorry, it's not going to stand shoulder to shoulder with Mario Kart. That's just not going to happen. But, I mean, it is a neat concept. I think this is the kind of game that I wouldn't understand as a kid. And I would probably just drive around breaking buildings thinking it was neat and then find out later, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I give it a shot. This is certainly a give it a shot one, but I don't really know much about it aside from you drive around and blow things up.
I think it's wacky because you get a bunch of different vehicle types and stuff like that. It seems slightly puzzly, but more arcadey. Yeah, I can get behind. It's
which is okay.
Destruction's fun.
Oh, you know what should be destroyed is FIFA
64 soccer.
FIFA Soccer 64.
Oh.
Same day as Blast Corps. Got nothing good to say. Oh, well, nothing to say.
There's another really cool game on this day, though.
There is one that's
I've played kind of recently, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is Turok. Dinosaur
Hunter.
Yeah, this game's solid. This is so early first-person shooters. This is actually a lot like Quake in my mind.
Yep.
If you played a Quake, you kind of know what you're in for. But you're shooting dinosaurs, and then later aliens. Turok's weird, man.
It's one that I've thought about because you got the Turok 1 and 2 remasters, right?
I did, and they are actually really good remasters. Folks, if you want to play these old school games now, they have been tweaked up and available on your console of choice, probably for dirt cheap. Not how I bought it. I bought it physically, but yeah, I think they're I don't know, $12, maybe 18. They're not bad, and
I could believe that.
They're just fun first-person shooters, and I like the maps too.
Yeah.
Nice big shooting dinosaurs. What more can I say?
This next one I have played on the 64, but I've actually beat the most modern version of it because I never actually owned it on the 64. It's Doom 64. This is going from February 28th for Turok to March 31st for Doom 64.
So I remember you were playing through this and you said you didn't hate it, but you didn't like a lot of things it did.
It changed the script on its head quite a bit, and I'd much rather Doom 1 or 2, even though it's the same kind of idea as the other one.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of questionable design choices.
Here's a question for you, though. Did you play it with the N64 controller, or did you not have that yet?
No, I did not have that.
Ooh.
I played on PC.
Oh, I thought for some reason you had it on Switch.
No, because I was originally going to get the limited print, but when I was playing it, I was getting frustrated with it.
Right. I recall now.
It's why would you do this? This isn't like Doom. This sucks.
I wonder if it would feel better with that controller.
Maybe.
That's an interesting thing to posit. But still,
yeah.
I mean, that frustrations aside, though, I'd say that's one of the more quality releases on this kind of side of things. And it's also, I think... I don't know if it would have been mature or teen. I feel like they toned it down a bit for the N64, but all the same, this is Nintendo getting hardcore. We just had killing dinosaurs, and now we got killing demons. Which
from hell.
Was a full month after Turok.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And almost a full month for the next one.
Oh, and it's not even worth it. Oh.
I don't even know what this is.
So War Gods is I don't know if it's the creators of Mortal Kombat or just another team basically dipping their toe and doing a 3D fighter without using the Mortal Kombat IP. So it's kind of like what Mortal Kombat would have been in 3D, but they were just nah, we don't want to kind of tarnish that yet. Let's do something original. And so I think it's just got your generic god archetypes, or maybe even individual, but it's a sloppy 3D fighter.
Fair enough.
Yeah, not a whole lot to say. The next game, however, I own, and I haven't gotten very far in because I haven't figured it out, but it's kind of close to my heart.
It's very similar to Doom, is it not?
Yeah, it's Hexen, which is, for those who don't know, now, is Hexen, it's not id, is it?
I don't know.
I don't know if it is, or if it's just a really solid clone, because Hexen is just straight up medieval Doom.
It runs off the Doom. Yeah, it runs on the Doom engine, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. No, I think Hexen's really cool, especially the fact that when you first started up, at least this one, because I think this one does a few things differently, but you can actually pick a class type. You can pick between
So the PC version was published by ID Software.
Oh, okay. So then, this is an id Software game. Cool. And you can pick a warrior, so you get you start off with your fists and you get swords and stuff, and it's still a first-person shooter, but it functions in a way that you can do melee combat.
Yep.
Or you could be a sorcerer, which is probably the smarter way to go because it's a first-person shooter. But I don't know, just medieval Doom. It's cool.
Yeah.
Check out Hexen. It's a good time.
So we at least had March and May at least had decent games. I guess February did too.
February had a banger.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
So that was 10 days after War Gods.
Yeah.
Then
another month.
Go ahead a month.
Yep.
June 30th in 97, we got Star Fox 64. And I really like this game. I played it a fuck ton. Holy shit.
So,
but also came when you bought it. It also came with the one of the first attachments anyways for the controller, which was the Rumble Pack.
Ooh, that's kind of a landmark thing.
It is.
That's something I didn't think it was actually going to come up in this discussion, but yeah, it was actually kind of cool that the N64 was prepared for peripherals.
Yes.
So,
I mean, I guess they had the memory card too, but I don't think any of these games really used it. I don't know.
And Rumble is to a point now in games where it's so integrated that you don't even think about it. It's just part of gaming now, right? But I very much remember, like, the Rumble Pack being a big deal. And it's like, you could be playing a game, but you're playing with a Rumble Pack, you are experiencing the game. Like, it was...
Yes, it's a whole
gimmick.
other world.
It's total gimmick, but it worked. It worked really well.
Me, my brother, and my friends used to all fight on who was going to get the Rumble Pack because we only had the one. It's like, oh, I like it for the weight because the battery would be dead in it because they used a couple AAA batteries, I think, in the back of it. It's like, oh, I need it for the weight. I can't play without the weight. So we used to fight over this little thing that attached to the back of the controller.
No, I very much know, like, you'd go to someone's house and they'd have like 3 or 4 controllers, but you could tell, like, this is the home controller because it's the one with the Rumble Pack.
Yeah. Star Fox 64 was so good. It's so much better than the Super Nintendo one. I mean, Super Nintendo one was a technical marvel, but the N64 version was just... It was that on steroids.
I've never
so
played
it.
I know. It's one of those games that... And
I just played on SNES Online, like a few months ago.
Nice.
Went through it twice.
Yeah, no, it's the one that I just have not jumped into, and I don't dislike Star Fox. In fact, like, I really like Star Fox 1. Star Fox 2, good time. I think I actually like it more than Star Fox 1. I just haven't played it as much.
This is the one that you're supposed to play.
I know.
This is the one you're supposed to play and enjoy.
Yeah, and
what's wrong with you?
I've seen Star Fox 64 for the 3DS like numerous times at a good price. Not anymore, God. And it's just like,
no.
I'll get it one day maybe, and I just never pulled the trigger. So I should actually, maybe I'll order one of those N64 controllers and. Because that's the one thing.
Use mine and play it.
I could do that as well, yeah. Because that's the one thing that, as much as I like the N64 online, there's only a handful of games that I will play because I don't have the N64 controller. Like, golf works just fine without it. Pokemon Stadium. Everything else, I'm going to have a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess we kind of dropped off, but we've kind of been alluding to it with our banter. But yes, would play this.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Should. Do it.
Would not.
Same with Hexen, not War Gods.
Yeah, Hexen, I'd like to think I alluded to. Good game. Give try. Next one, not so much, though, which, in its defense, for those that like it, I think this is actually a quality title, which is International Superstar Soccer. I don't know if it's this one, but I do know that, like, when Konami was on top of its game, like, they did soccer games pretty well. They're, like, better than FIFA. I don't know if FIFA's good or how much of a bar that is, but I'm trying here. I'm trying real hard.
So Konami still does a soccer game.
They're Konami-ing it, though. That's the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So you did miss one.
Did I?
I'm going to say no on soccer, but Dark Rift.
Oh, I didn't think that came out in this side of the world. That's why it's weird. What is that?
It only came out in this side of the world, and I have no idea.
What the heck is Dark Rift? Huh. Play it? Question mark.
Play it, yeah. It's a 3D fighting video. Okay, never mind.
Oh, no. See, I saw Vic Takai, and I was like,
Interesting thing here, though, because I just looked up. Actually, Gives a 4.6 out of 5.
That's not
so
bad.
It's probably pretty good. But it's the first N64 game to use 60 frames a second.
That's kind of a landmark.
That is.
Yeah.
How have we not heard of this?
I don't know. Maybe.
Or paid that much attention to it.
We should look into it. I'm going to still say my analysis is play it with a question mark.
Yep.
Yeah.
I check it out if it's in the vicinity, but I'm not going out of my way.
I already don't want to play this next one. You might.
Oh,
You'd probably be right into this.
I had this. I played it. I loved it. I shouldn't say I loved it. But I liked it.
Isn't it top-down Tetris?
Kind of. It's like a
sphere? Because it's called Tetris Sphere?
Yeah. It's top-down, yeah. So you just move the sphere around instead of the blocks, I think.
Conceptually, that's pretty cool.
And you try and break open the core inside. So it was more like a matching game because it wasn't so much lines. You couldn't really do a line on a sphere.
Tootsie Pop Sim.
Yes. But I had this game. It wasn't my most favorite by any means, but I still had a decent time with it.
I feel like it's the I'm going to pop this in when I'm mad at my other game that I want to play kind of game.
That's what I do with Tetris Effect Connected.
So it's exactly that.
Yep.
Next one is, now, I think we've already bitched about this game before.
Oh, this one is a horrible game.
But
like nobody should play it.
There is no denying the legacy that is GoldenEye 007 for the N64.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
This is like the game to play for multiplayer because everyone likes chopping each other in the neck as odd job or whatever. Just gonna make people mad at this point.
What we used to do was put on License to Kill mode. So it's like everybody had a golden gun, which was one shot, one kill.
Yep.
And we'd just do that with pistols only.
Landmines.
It was just a blast. We did no landmines. We usually turn them off.
Oh, but see, here's the thing: if you use landmines, you can turn it into spy versus spy.
Yes. Yeah. But the way that we played, no.
I guess the game already is spy versus spy, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. GoldenEye, yeah, absolutely. Like I don't know how to give it the praise that it deserves.
Because it's hard to now.
It is hard to now.
Yeah.
If you could do dual analog sticks on it, which I don't know if the Xbox version does.
So I know
it would be so much better.
I know that it's quote unquote remastered on the Xbox. So I couldn't speak to it. But I also know that, like, myself, I don't have enough investment in the original to try the Xbox. Did it come to PC as well? Like, is it a Game Pass thing?
I don't know.
If it is, you should probably check it out, because you would have more avenues to do so than I, and also more fondness.
Yes. And playing GoldenEye somehow on PC with a keyboard and mouse, the N64 version, absolutely wonderful. It's made for it.
So it's not a bad game. It's just hard to play on its original hardware.
It's just hard to play on the original hardware because the controller.
That's understandable.
Dual analog sticks would change it up immensely, but at the time, that's how we did things.
Well,
I mean, we were used to it. Now we're too comfortable with how it is now.
Admittedly, though, like,
better.
If you were to sit down with like 3 other friends in an actual N64, you all got N64 controllers and GoldenEye, I think there could still be fun to be had because everyone sucks.
Yeah.
I think that if you are going to go about it that way, that is the purest way, is probably the most enjoyable way to play the original version of this game, at the very least.
So, last time I played the original version was probably about 9 years ago with our lovely friend Toady.
Oh, nice.
And neither of us could get the controls down. We're just going like looking up, looking straight down, looking side to side, and it's like, what the fuck is happening?
Oh, that doesn't sound
This
fun.
makes no sense. This is horrible. I do not remember it being this bad.
Yeah, do you aim with the C stick?
Or
is it hold down Z?
So you don't strafe.
No, because it's like tank controls.
So your joystick is, like tank controls. If you want to aim while stationary, you can hold R,
right,
and you can move the thing around. But you look up and down, and you can strafe with the C buttons.
That's right, because I remember their weird sideways running legs.
Yes. But GoldenEye, I'm going to play it again.
It's loved for a reason.
If I could do double agent on the N64 back in the day, I can at least probably endure normal nowadays. Just relive that nostalgia.
You know what I got no nostalgia for? MRC Multi-Racing Championship.
That's going to be a no on my part.
Yeah, same with me. But I will at least give it some points. It gave August a grand total of 3 games. So,
this is
good
true.
for August. And then we're out for another month-long drought. And let's just say the drink after the drought, a little bitter. We have Clay Fighter 63 and a third. And this game is absolutely notorious for... This is not the expensive one, mind you. I'm sure it's not cheap.
I was going to ask.
But yeah, like this, so the expensive version is the 63 and a third Sculptor's Cut, and that's the one that was the Blockbuster exclusive. This is just a bad game. And it's a shame, because not that Clay Fighter was particularly good, but it was a fun Super Nintendo fighting game. I don't know, it had this gimmick. It looked really good. This looks bad. It looks really bad. And I'm not going to go into details. 1, because I don't remember, and 2, because I just don't feel I need to. But there's some real strong racial stereotypes that did not age well in this game.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so...
No.
So, moving on beyond Clay Fighter... Oh, for people who don't know it, it's a fighting game where you are clay models. All right, that's Clay Fighter 63 and a third. So, moving on.
What's Extreme G? Is this a racing game?
It sounds like a racing game, and since it's put out by Acclaim, I'm going to guess it's a racing game. I don't actually know.
Probably a racing game.
Let's see.
I'm going to say no on the last one and this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with no.
And with the next one.
The next one?
Which all released on the same day.
Oh, that's, like I said, it's a little bit of a bitter drink. These next ones don't even have dates. We'll get to that in a second. But so this would be where things would end if we did just the year itself, and it ran really sadly. So we have Extreme G, which racing game ? We'll come back to that one another time. But then we have F1 Pole Position for 64, and so me and my buddy went through a little bit of a phase for a while there where we were looking for like almost racing sim-esque games on retro consoles, so stuff like Top Gear on Super Nintendo, and actually discovering like these games are pretty good. It was also, I think I started thinking about stuff like this when I played, I think it's Super Hang-On for the Sega, and it's just one of those like, behind the back kind of arcade racers, and I was like, these are actually stupid fun. So... And I think F1 Pole Position is another one of those more simulator-esque racing games. I don't know if this one's good.
Kind of sounds like it.
But I would try it. Because Pole Position has been around since... Oh, there's one in the Game Boy.
Ages.
And there's one in the Super Nintendo. Like, it's a long-standing racing Formula 1 franchise, right? So I'd give it a shot. I don't know if it's good, but...
Not so much for me. I'll be completely honest. I don't care about racing.
That's kind of
kart racers, different aspect.
I'm noticing
simulation racing, not so much.
The launch year is quite full of racing. There's a lot of racing games on N64. I guess they did well with that 4-player format though.
Yeah,
that's the launch year. That's sad.
Oh yeah,
that's the year.
'Cause that brings the end. So. Out of that launch year, we're going to continue, but out of that launch year, we had Super Mario 64, Pilot Wings, Mario Kart 64, Killer Instinct,
Hexen, Turok, Doom,
GoldenEye.
Yeah, GoldenEye.
Star Fox.
There's some cool stuff.
There's a lot more crap.
There's a lot more crap.
To us than good.
Well, and even that, though, there was a lot of games that like kind of got rushed out, right? Like, people hadn't figured out the N64 yet. Like, for example, War Gods. Probably a game that had potential to be good, but they just couldn't figure out how to make a good game on the N64, right?
Yep, that's probably why they didn't use Mortal Kombat as a name.
That's what I'm thinking, because Mortal Kombat 4, which didn't come out for a while, is not looked upon fondly, but is still... People like it more than War Gods, I know that.
Yep.
So let's do a little bit of a victory lap to the end of the year. We got a couple titles here. We can at least get to that. What would you ask for Christmas in 1997?
Right. Yeah. So I'll read off. Oh, there's actually quite a few in October.
It's a little bit of a chunk, yeah.
So we got Top Gear Rally and Mace the Dark Age, which we don't have a date for. It's just October 1999.
So Top Gear, as I was just discussing, probably kind of okay, but I only have experience with the Super Nintendo one, so I can't entirely speak to it. Let's just say it's another arcade racer, so it might be decent. Mace the Dark Age sounds familiar, but I don't know what it is.
It is a 3D fighter.
Ah, damn it. Because I was going to say,
one.
that is a title, and for some reason, I'm picturing, the box art, and it's hands down something if I was to go to Blockbuster or something, I'm taking that home this weekend.
Because it sounds cool.
It does.
But it looks like a medieval fighter.
Do you know what game I'm not taking home based on its box art, and I'm regretting it years later, though?
Is it the next one on the list? October 1st, 1997?
Yeah. This is Mischief Makers, and for those that know, they know. This game is so fucking cool. It is a 2D sprite-based platformer on the N64, which we're this far into its life span, which again, not far, a year in, but all the same. And this is the first example that I would say is taking concepts that you would do on the Super Nintendo, but doing them better with better hardware.
Yeah,
and
kind of like Symphony of the Night for
PS1.
PS1,
yeah,
thank you.
Exactly. It's doing something that they really should have done more of with this console, and I'm disappointed that they didn't. And Mischief Makers is, I don't want to say hidden gem, but kinda. And
I always saw this game, never picked it up, never really knew much about it.
So I only know about it.
But I always wanted to pick it up from rental.
Yeah, so there was one kid down the road. I didn't know him well, but I knew him well enough to at least borrow some games. And this is one of the games that I borrowed from him. And yeah, this game is super weird, just straight up wacky. It's made by Treasure. And
okay, yeah, there it is.
So, and Treasure didn't make much for Nintendo. So this is a really special kind of situation, and I don't know how to describe Mischief Makers other than you're this robot girl, and everything's weird. Everything's super weird in this game, but it's a platformer, and it's very one of a kind. Look into it if you are interested. Yes, would play now, and hoping to God it ends up on the N64 online.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, not the next one though.
Because I'd like to play it.
Yeah.
Not the next one, no. NFL Quarterback Club 98, released in 97.
It's not even 1998. Yeah, I know. This is how they release games, but...
yep.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow!
Sports, we've made that clear so many times now. Aero Fighters Assault, October 30th, 97.
It sounds like a dogfighting game.
It sounds like a shooter game. Was Aero Fighters... Oh, where's my list now? Yeah, Aero Fighters was the very expensive Super Nintendo game.
Thought that sounded familiar.
Yeah.
Huh.
That I had on my list. Don't know much on it. I'm assuming it's the shooter. Star Fox 64 better.
I'm curious.
Duke Nukem 64 to help end October off on October 31st, 97. I think this is just it's very similar to Duke Nukem 3D, is it not?
Pretty sure that's just all this is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's obviously heavily censored because it's on the N64, but
yes. But Duke Nukem 3D was a good time.
I feel like
I don't see why this wouldn't be.
I feel like if you enjoyed something like Doom 64, Hexen, maybe not Turok, they're a little bit different, but if you're still enjoying that, you'd probably enjoy Duke Nukem 64.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, this is one that's good if you like sports. I'll give them that. But this is
yes.
Madden Football 64. He's at it again, folks.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Rest in peace.
Oh, dear. Not playing.
No.
November
8th. Clearly, we've been getting a lot more games. October was a busy month.
Took a year, but they're ramping up.
Yeah. November 8th, San Francisco Rush Extreme Racing. This sounds like a racing game.
In San Francisco, though.
In San Francisco, it's extreme.
Are you going to go over the Golden Gate Bridge or up and down some hills? And as a Canadian, I've officially run out of San Francisco things to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next game is absolutely fantastic and is a better single-player experience than Mario Kart 64, and that's Diddy Kong Racing. Have you played Diddy Kong Racing?
Not enough to speak about it. I have...
Oh, this is one I'm hoping comes to the N64 Online, because I absolutely adore Diddy Kong Racing. As a single-player racing kart racer game, again, kart racers. I love kart racers.
Oh, it was single player, wasn't it?
Yes, I mean Mario Kart 64 was too. You just had the tours and stuff where Diddy Kong Racing had like an actual like story to it.
Oh,
and you went around like the main world.
You could still play multiplayer though.
You could still play Oh, absolutely.
I was gonna say that would be really absurd if they couldn't. But I know what you're talking about now.
That would be horrible.
Yeah, it had almost a campaign to it.
It had a campaign to it. Yeah, no, I adore Diddy Kong Racing. I fucking love it.
I want to give it more time than I have. That's for sure. I don't know. Maybe
I'd like to see it on Switch Online.
It's got to be on there one day.
Will I be unlocking TikTok? No.
TikTok the clock?
Yeah.
That's so much more clever than the app that we don't use.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me and my brother did it growing up. It's not the easiest, if I remember correctly. You got to beat like all the time trials.
So it's a weird...
And then beat him in it.
Like a weird comparison that I could make, but the game that I would consider like my Donkey Kong Racing, or Diddy Kong Racing, I should say, it's not even on the console, but like Crash Team Racing. That's my not Mario Kart that's better than Mario Kart around this particular time.
Did that have a single-player campaign?
Yes, I can't remember.
Or was it just tournaments?
I think it might have been just tournaments, but I also know that the unlockable character was a penguin, and because penguins are my favorite animal, it already win. And it's also really funny that in that penguin's voice dialogue, it just has the guy reading out the test file name for his dialogue. Yeah, so instead of like this cartoony voice of a penguin going, yay, it's just a guy saying, penguin yay won. So that's my random bit of trivia about Crash Team Racing. But Diddy Kong Racing would try, 100%. Ah, crap.
We'll play, absolutely.
Next is...
What about, what the fuck? Automobili Lamborghini.
It's a car. It go fast. No.
Got nothing for it.
Now,
next one?
Yes. Very much yes. I love Bomberman. I don't think I've ever played Bomberman 64, though. I've played a lot of...
I don't think I have.
I think it's called Bomberman Hero, and it was like the Zelda-style one that was for N64, and it's admittedly kind of mediocre, but I don't know, I got a lot of nostalgia for it as a top-notch game. This one is your more classic Bomberman, where like I think he's on the grid and stuff like that. But all the same, Bomberman's just fun, and it is one of the greatest multiplayer games if you can get some people who are into it. It is so chaotic and stupid and fun. I actually spent a good chunk of my teenage years of emulating just becoming a Bomberman master. But you're only
I'm down for some Bomberman.
You're only so much of a master, even if you're playing out on maxed out CPU difficulty. Humans play a little different.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, but yeah, Bomberman 64, 100% gonna try that.
What about Chameleon Twist?
I've heard it's great.
I don't know it. It's a platformer, is it not?
It is a platformer, and, its whole gimmick is, so, take Banjo-Kazooie, but instead of a bird, you have a chameleon tongue.
Ukulele?
Oh my god. I mean, no, but kinda. Weird.
You're out of line, but you're not wrong.
Yeah, no, that's... but yeah, if it was something like it came to the Switch Online, something like that, I'd give Chameleon Twist a try.
I'd give it a try.
I don't have enough to elaborate. I'm sorry to our listeners if this back half, but hey, this is a bonus. You're getting more. Enjoy it. This is for you.
This next game, not so much. FIFA Road to the World Cup 98.
This is not for you, by which I mean not for me.
Yeah. Same with this next one, WCW versus NWO World Tour.
I don't think I had World Tour. I did have a couple WWF games for N64, and honestly, they're kind of the best race or wrestling games you'll ever play.
I've heard that, especially No Mercy.
I think No Mercy is one that I had, and then I think maybe it was... I don't think it was WCW versus NWO, but it was definitely another THQ wrestling game, because I know I had two. No Mercy was one, and I want to say something like versus Raw, or I don't know, but it was fun. And like the cool thing about it was there was a good amount of presentation. You could do like your own character creator, and then even go to the extent of like the music and stage exit and stuff like that, and like what kind of special moves you perform. And honestly, it's one of those few genres that like the 3D stuff super benefited it, like compared to Super Nintendo wrestling games and stuff. So
I can believe that, yeah.
I don't know about this specific entry, but I do know that at least down the future, wrestling games get pretty good for the N64. So this one's a maybe for me.
I'd be willing to try it just to kind of like genre confuse myself, I guess.
I think I would want to check it more out of like a technical curiosity than I actually want to play this game, right? Like I'm not getting to the credits on WCW versus NWO.
No.
So this.
But what about Wheel of Fortune up next?
I don't even care if it's bad. I'm down for some Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune's always a good time.
How do you like? I've played one of the most recent iterations of Wheel of Fortune, and I actually think it's still put out by Game Tech. Possibly.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know if they're still doing it, but I think they might be. I don't know anything about the N64 version, but it's Wheel of Fortune. How do you mess that up? Something like Jeopardy, you know, that one's a little trickier because it's kind of got a bit of a pop culture angle to it. Wheel of Fortune is just phrases. I like
pretty
spelling.
Much. It's a weird version of Hangman.
So he's back.
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey 98.
You didn't learn last year, Wayne. What the hell?
Yeah, it's hockey. As Canadians, we should be embracing hockey, not Wayne Gretzky's hockey on N64.
Yeah, and
period. We probably shouldn't be praising this next one either.
So we're ending 98 or 97, not with a bang, but with a real sad whimper.
Yeah,
and this is admittedly something.
Finish him.
Yes, finish him indeed. Finish the year with Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. Now, here's the thing about this game. Conceptually, it's not a bad idea. It's actually kind of cool.
No, it would be a really cool idea.
Because, first of all, Mortal Kombat has some of the wackiest and most interesting lore. I actually do like kind of watching things about the stories of Mortal Kombat just because it's so wild. And Mortal Kombat's got some pretty interesting characters. So to make like a side game, a platformer starring Sub-Zero, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. And then you're like, well, what if we made a platformer, but it behaved mechanically like Mortal Kombat? And then you're like, that's interesting. I don't know. Tell me more. And then you say, what if to turn around, you had a dedicated button? Also, it was
What
bad.
if we just didn't know what a platformer is good or how to make a good platformer? We only know how to make fighting games, and we like Sub-Zero.
Oh, this game is one of the worst. It has its notoriety as one of the worst games on the N64. It is like the worst Mortal Kombat game. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Josh, what do you want for Christmas?
Sub-Zero. No, I'm gonna say Diddy Kong Racing.
If I was going to ask for something for my N64 for Christmas, I tossed up between... Okay, to make it a little bit more interesting, because you don't always get what you want for Christmas, but at least if you give a couple alternatives. So, if I can't get this for Christmas, but if Grandma finds me this, I'm still happy. My first pick, assuming I would be into it at the time, because the box art doesn't sell a lot, but Mischief Makers. That's the game I want.
Right.
If not that, though... Probably Bomberman 64.
That's fair.
Yeah, those are my two picks.
Well, if I'm going to pick two, I'm going to say Diddy Kong Racing. And I'm actually going to go with Mischief Makers.
It
was always one of those ones that I kept seeing and I kept wanting, and I asked for it for a few times during Christmas, but I never got it.
Which is funny because
I didn't know why I wanted it. Just something about it just appealed to me.
And it's not a particularly rare N64 game, to my knowledge. It's just obscure, because it wasn't like all the other N64 games on the market, right?
Yeah.
It's the same with, like you said, Symphony of the Night. Like, people didn't really take it seriously because it's like, this isn't a PlayStation game. It's got these old, stupid-looking graphics that will look so much better in the future.
Pixel art did not get understood like it is now.
Oh, it's just this thing of beauty. And the pixel art, and like, they do use a lot of the effects to their advantage, but it was like, you know, the sprite rotating and stuff like that. They could do motion blur. Like, the N64 was actually the more powerful hardware on the market at the time. But then they were like, cartridges. We have all this power, but we're not going to contain much memory, so we're not going to use it.
Exactly. And, I mean, they lost one of their biggest franchises, which was Final Fantasy as a whole.
So
never really got it back.
You know what, though? I'm glad. I'm kind of okay with that timeline, because we got Final Fantasy VII out of it. I've seen this supposed tech demo that was like using Final Fantasy VI characters as like a showcase, and it doesn't look good at all.
No.
We ended up in the much. And also, I think, I could be very wrong with my number, but I think someone broke it down, and it was like over 20 cartridges. Was it 72?
Yeah. It was something stupid.
To get Final Fantasy VII onto the N64?
Yeah.
Oh, man, and Banjo-Kazooie couldn't figure out stop and swap. They're doomed.
Now, I will say this.
Cartridge 63. Damn it. Yeah.
Now, I will say this. Resident Evil 2 came to N64.
Well, know what's funny about that is I was retro game shopping, and I didn't quite have the knowledge that I did now. And I saw Resident Evil 2 on the N64, and I thought it was a bootleg. I did not know that such a thing was possible.
A lot of people didn't realize that it was possible, but they got it on, and it's apparently one of the best ways to play it.
I think it's missing some things, but not anything to take away from the game.
Yeah, I don't think it has one side of the story.
Oh, is it
because Resident Evil games, there's two sides.
Is it like...
So that's why it has two discs, is it has Leon's story and Claire's story.
Right.
And I think it's just Leon's story. I could be wrong. I could be misspeaking. It's been a while since I've looked at the N64 version of it.
I do know it's a technical marvel. So
it is. It's like getting Doom to run on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah. It didn't run well, but it did.
Except Resident Evil 2 worked really well.
Yeah. But I guess the burning question is launch year of the N64. Do you think it was like worth it to get one? I mean, there's a couple really good games, but there wasn't a lot of games.
Yeah. Honestly, the more I look at the overall library,
it's not bad. It's not bad. I could probably think of like
I was gonna say
6 to 8
opposite.
games.
I mean, there are quite a few games, but like overall, when I'm thinking retro games, I'm leaning elsewhere.
Yeah, N64.
Like the N64, not a whole lot is really popping out on me, and that's because a lot of the good stuff ended up on PS1 and other stuff. I'm still gonna enjoy my Diddy Kong Racing and my Super Mario 64, and one that I really enjoyed was Silicon Valley Space Station.
That's one I've never played, but I really want to try one day.
All right, well, next time you're over, I'll pop it in for you.
Exciting. It did get some really good games down the line, but I think that's the thing with the N64 is people don't look at it as a console that was a lot of fun to play. It was more so people look at it as like the games that it had, they loved. And I know it's basically saying the same thing, but its identity is more the games than the console, right? Because you think about some incredible games like Paper Mario or Banjo-Kazooie, which you can't even say is an N64 game anymore. So
both absolutely fantastic. Same with the two kart racers we mentioned already.
Yep.
I mean, it has a good fair amount of games, but most of my thought with the N64 was that it was the sleepover console. It was playing multiplayer games with your friends.
You know what's funny about the N64 as well? Now when I look back at playing N64 games, I don't really want to play these games that I'm super nostalgic for and played a bunch of. I actually want to play these obscure bad games because, like, as you have your top-notch gold standard games and the rest. It was very rare that you just had okay games.
I'm also kind of afraid of touching some of these games that I have good nostalgia for because I don't want to ruin my memory of them.
Turok. Yeah, that is my closing statement about the N64's first year.
I mean, Super Mario 64, Star Fox 64, Diddy Kong Racing.
Let's say it's
Mario Kart 63.
I think
63.
The best way to describe this is mixed bag.
Mixed bag. Its first party stuff was on point. That's including the rare
They were
stuff.
like the only ones who knew what to do, though, right? And then of course you have this random Sega developer that's just like, we're not going to do that, but we are going to do something good. Yeah. God, I want to play Mischief Makers.
One day, maybe.
But yeah, that's about all I got on this one. How about yourself?
That's all I got myself. So let's close on out.
Yeah.
Everyone, thank you for listening to us ramble about the N64. Some bit of nostalgia, some little bit of disappointment because there's a lot of fighting and racing games that just sports
FIFA,
that
Wayne Gretzky,
personally don't care about.
Arcade
Wayne Gretzky
Racers.
made a lot of people go to the PS1.
Clay Fighter.
Oh dear. But that's all from us. You can catch us on social medias. We will post one day. we honestly hate social media, so ignore the lack of posts. We are going to try. Keep saying that. It's going to happen one day. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter at OptionalBossPC, and we shall catch you next time. Thanks for listening.
Bye!